when everything changed overnight. In a peaceful monastery high in the mountains, a young monk named Sonam lived a simple, content life. His days were filled with meditation, chores, and studying the sacred texts under the guidance of the wise Master Dorje. Sonam believed that his path was steady, and his progress in spiritual practice was predictable. He had no idea that everything in his life would change in a single night. One evening, as the monks prepared for their nightly meditation, a fierce storm swept through the mountains. The wind howled, and rain lashed the monastery, shaking its ancient walls. Sonam, who had never seen such a storm, felt a deep sense of unease but tried to remain calm. He sat in the meditation hall, but his mind kept drifting back to the raging storm outside. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the monastery, startling all the monks. They rushed outside to find that the storm had uprooted the sacred Bodhi tree, a tree that had stood for centuries. Master Dorje approached the fallen tree with a calm expression, his eyes reflecting the weight of what had happened. He turned to the monks and said, "This tree, like all things, has served its time. It is a reminder of impermanence." Sonam, however, felt a deep sadness. The Bodhi tree had been a symbol of stability and peace for him. Its loss left him feeling unanchored, as if the world had suddenly shifted beneath his feet. That night, unable to sleep, Sonam lay awake in his small room, listening to the storm slowly die down. He wondered how something so strong and ancient could be destroyed overnight. The next morning, the storm had passed, and the monastery was eerily quiet. The monks gathered in the courtyard, still shaken by the sight of the fallen tree. Master Dorje addressed the monks, saying, "Last night, we witnessed the truth of impermanence. Everything we hold dear can change in an instant." His words hung in the air, leaving Sonam deep in thought. Sonam began to question his understanding of life and the teachings he had followed so diligently. He realized that he had been clinging to the idea of permanence, even in his spiritual journey. As the days passed, the monks cleared the fallen tree, but its absence left a void in the monastery. Sonam felt as though a part of him had been lost with it. One evening, Master Dorje found Sonam sitting quietly by the spot where the tree once stood. He asked, "Why does this tree's fall trouble you so deeply, Sonam?" Sonam replied, "The tree was a symbol of peace and strength. Its fall makes me question the stability of everything." Master Dorje nodded, sensing the young monk's inner turmoil. The tree was strong, but it too followed the laws of nature, Master Dorje said. Change is the only constant, and wisdom lies in accepting that. Sonam listened but struggled to accept these words fully. Over the next few days, Sonam found himself reflecting on Master Dorje's teachings more deeply. He began to see that his attachment to the tree was a reflection of his fear of change. One morning, as Sonam walked through the forest, he noticed a small sapling growing where the tree had fallen. It was tiny and fragile, but it was a sign of new life. In that moment, Sonam understood the lesson the universe was teaching him. The fallen tree had given way to new life, and the cycle of growth and decay continued. Sonam returned to the monastery and sought out Master Dorje. He bowed deeply and said, "I understand now. The tree's fall was not an end, but a new beginning." Master Dorje smiled and said, "You have learned the greatest lesson of all. Life is a continuous cycle of change, and within that change lies wisdom." From that day on, Sonam embraced every change in his life with grace and acceptance. He no longer feared loss, for he knew that every ending brought the seed of a new beginning. Months passed, and the sapling grew taller, nurtured by the same soil that had once held the ancient Bodhi tree. The monks tended to it, and it became a new symbol of hope and resilience. Sonam often meditated beneath the growing tree, feeling its energy and the lessons it had taught him about impermanence. He realized that true wisdom came from embracing life's changes, not resisting them. As the seasons changed, Sonam's own inner transformation deepened. He became known for his wisdom among the monks, guiding others who struggled with the fear of change. Whenever a storm threatened the monastery again, Sonam no longer felt fear. He knew that storms were part of nature's way, and that what falls always gives rise to something new. One evening, Master Dorje approached Sonam and said, "You have grown as strong as the sapling you once feared would never rise." Sonam smiled, knowing that he had learned to embrace life's unfolding. Years later, the young sapling had grown into a strong tree, offering shade and peace to all who meditated beneath it. Sonam often reflected on how the fall of the old tree had paved the way for this new beginning. Whenever Sonam sat beneath the new tree, he was reminded that life's changes, though difficult at times, always bring the opportunity for growth. He understood that every storm, every fall, and every change was a necessary part of life's journey. Sonam became a teacher in the monastery, guiding others to trust in the natural flow of life. He shared the story of the fallen tree, encouraging them to see change not as loss, but as transformation. And so, the monastery continued to flourish, with the new tree standing as a symbol of resilience and the power of acceptance. Sonam, now a master himself, knew that the lessons he had learned from the storm and the fallen tree would guide him for the rest of his life. Moral of the story: life's greatest lessons often come through unexpected change. What may seem like a loss or setback can become the foundation for new growth and wisdom. Embrace change with grace, for it is through change that we truly find our strength.